This week we kick off Obscure Characters Month 2025, our annual showcase of lesser-known and cult-favourite bots, starting with an Autobot who's as much of a Transformers fanboy as you or me. These are the basics on IRONFIST. While the original Transformers toy line ended in North America in 1990, it continued in other countries, with brand new figures being produced for various different markets around the world. One of those figures was IRONFIST, an Autobot Humvee released in Europe and Australasia in 1993. Strong, silent, and with a fondness for fast and furious action, IRONFIST was a highly regarded weapons expert who considered a well-designed piece of artillery a work of art. He was one of the Lightformers, Autobots who came with large weapons platforms. When you looked through the weapon's scope and pressed a button, a combination of light piping and mirrors created the illusion of laser fire shooting towards IRONFIST's target. IRONFIST continued to be sold in 1994 when the toy line was rebranded as Generation 2 and was then discontinued in 1995. And for a long time, that was as far as his story went. He appeared in absolutely no media for over 15 years, until he suddenly shot to fame in 2010 as the tragic hero of IDW Publishing's popular comic book miniseries, Last Stand of the Wreckers. IRONFIST was one of several early 90s Euro Autobots featured in this series, deliberately chosen by writer-artist Nick Roach for their obscurity. He was depicted as a quiet, awkward sort of bot, who was a huge fan of the Autobot commando unit, the Wreckers. IRONFIST had written hundreds of stories about the team, thrilling, inspirational tales that painted the Wreckers as incredible heroes, which he published on the Cybertronian datanet under the alias Fisitron, an anagram of his real name, garnering a large audience of subscribers. He was responsible for designing some of the deadliest weapons in the Autobot arsenal. But while he was working on his latest invention, bullets that homed in on a target's brain, tragedy struck as the weapon misfired and one of the bullets was lodged in IRONFIST's head. The bullet spent months slowly creeping towards IRONFIST's brain, but as it was nearing its target, IRONFIST was contacted by Autobot strategist Prowl with an offer. The Wreckers would soon be departing on a mission to the planet Alba to recover the database of the Autobot supercomputer Equitas before it fell into Decepticon hands. The contents of Equitas were so confidential that the computer could only be activated by spark donation. A Transformer had to die to turn it on. In return for the chance to spend his final days living out his dream, going into action alongside his heroes, IRONFIST agreed to be that sacrifice, ending his life on his own terms before the bullet could. Things didn't play out like IRONFIST expected. He soon learned that real Wreckers missions were nothing like his stories, but terrifying, bloody affairs in which good people died in horrible ways. Worse yet, when a sad twist of fate led veteran wrecker Topspin to sacrifice himself to activate Equitas instead of IRONFIST, it meant IRONFIST lived to discover that the data they'd been sent to recover were records of Autobot war crime trials. Records that laid bare how vicious, cruel, and morally compromised IRONFIST's heroes truly were. Though shaken by the revelation, IRONFIST was urged by human ally Verity Carlo to look past the grimy truth and instead aspire to be the kind of wrecker he had written about in his stories, inspiring him to fight on and save his teammates from the Decepticon super warrior, Overlord. Then, as the Wreckers journeyed home, their mission accomplished, the bullet in IRONFIST's head finally reached his brain and killed him. Supplementary stories published in the collected edition of Last Stand provided a coda to IRONFIST's tale, revealing that his brain bullet gun had actually been sabotaged by his supposed best friend, Skyfall, who was trying to get IRONFIST out of the way so he could plunder his workshop. But IRONFIST was able to get revenge from beyond the grave, having pre-programmed evidence of Skyfall's crimes to be sent out to all his subscribers upon his death. Also, it turned out that before he had died, Iron Fist had left one last weapon behind. A copy of the incriminating Equitas data entrusted to Verity, which she would use to kick off the plot of the 2015 sequel series, Sins of the Wreckers. But surprisingly, Last Stand wasn't the only comic in which Iron Fist appeared in 2010. By complete coincidence, Fun Publications, the company behind both the Transformers Collectors Club and the official convention Botcon, also chose to include Iron Fist in that year's club-exclusive comic. Set in the world of the original Transformers cartoon, this story depicted Iron Fist as a member of the Autobot Elite Guard during the golden age of Cybertron, a boisterous bot with an Australian accent whose poor marksmanship meant he favoured the weapons that made the biggest explosions. In the story, Iron Fist appeared to die in battle with the Decepticon combiner Bruticus. But a year later, probably in response to the unexpected new popularity Last Stand had brought him, the comic revealed that Iron Fist had survived the experience. Riding the wave of Iron Fist's new popularity, Fun Publications created the first new toy of the character as an exclusive for Botcon 2011. This was a Transformers animated incarnation of Iron Fist, a retool and recolor of the animated Cybertron Mode Ratchet figure, which transformed into a Cybertronian transport truck. However, thanks to the Marvel comic superhero of the same name, a trademark couldn't be secured on Iron Fist's name, so the figure was instead sold under his IDW alias, Fisitron. The toy earned Iron Fist an appearance in the convention's exclusive comic, in which his weapons lab was ransacked by the Stunticons, and to bring the criminals to justice, he provided Optimus Prime with a Decepticon disguise so the Autobot leader could infiltrate the Stunticons and take them down from within. Fun Publications kept the Iron Fist train rolling in 2014 with another new toy in the club's figure subscription service, again sold as Fisitron. This was a version of Iron Fist from the world of the Fall of Cybertron video game, who, like the IDW character, was a member of the Wreckers. In fact, the toy was a recolor of an existing Wrecker, the Cybertronian assault vehicle Roadbuster, from a range of Fall of Cybertron Wreckers released in the Generations line in 2013. And Iron Fist could combine with these other figures to form the giant robot Ruination. This Iron Fist had been an underground weapons designer until being recruited into the Wreckers for his combining abilities, and he appeared briefly in a short online comic being hunted down by the Decepticon law enforcer Barricade for alleged war crimes connected to his inventions. Iron Fist fell back to making only minor appearances over the next decade, most notably a very short-lived role in the 2014 prose series Transformers Cloud, as a Wrecker who was killed by the Decepticon Hellwarp. However, his popularity did lead Hasbro to consider producing a new toy of him for 2015's Combiner Wars, which would have been a retool of the Autobot armoured reconnaissance vehicle Rook, sold under the name Ironclad as a new member of the Technobots. This toy was never made, but the Collectors Club did wind up including Ironclad in some of their stories as his own separate character. Eventually though, Iron Fist returned in 2025's Age of the Primes, with another new toy based on his IDW appearance, complete with his Lightformer cannon, an extensive retool and recolor of the 2019 Siege Hound figure, which transformed into an armoured truck. Yet again marketed as Fisitron, he was part of the Amazon-exclusive Wreck-'n' Doom collection, a subline themed around the Wreckers and their Decepticon rivals, the Mayhem Attack Squad, and was sold in a 2-pack with Mayhem member Carnivac. From a total nobody to a cult favourite with 3 new toys, through the simple power of a darn good comic, Iron Fist is the kind of bot who was made for Obscure Characters Month. And those are the basics on Iron Fist. If you like this video, be sure to be back here next week and every Saturday in December as Obscure Characters Month continues, or get early ad-free access to each new video by becoming a channel member or supporting the series on Patreon.